Part of a mini two-game road trip. Didn't go so well in Los Angeles. Now in Nashville, we'll see what happens. We're going to address that. We're going to talk a little Euros as well. Nick Cushing, his pregame presser. Malachi Jones also spoke, and we'll give you our thoughts on the whole unit here live on NYCFC Views.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy. Tiene tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer!
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
I'm Glenn Crooks. Here's Roberto Abramowitz, who, if you follow him on Twitter or X, you'll note that he is rubbing it in, that he's on the road, on a rooftop pool, or on the rooftop bathing in the pool. And I was up there very early this morning, Roberto. I did a little different than you. I was like from 7 to 10 because it was not too hot yet and got some work done. But it's nice to see you. I guess we just saw each other, so what the heck. Opposite rooms.
Yeah.
Did you hear my music before?
I did not, thankfully.
All right. Well, no, you like Rod
good.
Stewart. You like Rod Stewart.
Oh, I like Rod Stewart. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we're gonna talk music.
Are we gonna talk music about?
We're gonna talk a little music after well, we're in Music City, so heck, if you don't, and for anybody that's visiting here for the first time, they're almost required to go to Broadway and then go, just pass through all those, open door pubs that have music blasting, from like 11 a.m. on. It's really, it's pretty wild. It's almost too wild. I don't know. Is this a sign of my age that I'm just like, I don't tolerate some of the drunken behavior as well as I used to. I guess that's what
it sort of reminds me of what the Village was back in the 70s when you were on Bleecker Street and you had all those great venues that were there. The Bottom Line, I believe, was there as well, and you had all those great venues, and they had a lot of great live music. And you had that, except that this seems to be earlier during the day, and then it goes late at night, and Broadway is definitely nuts. Well, a lot more people than in the Village back in those days.
That part of it is good, but the Village was more hip, more cool. I mean, than this Nashville scene, and with all the party buses going around, it's bachelorette heaven here, and
yes, it is. More so than Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a sign somewhere that it's like the Vegas. What were they? Oh, I don't even want to bring it up because I saw it last time I was here. I didn't see it this time, and it was kind of funny. A funny play on Vegas words, but I can't remember what it was. All right, so we were in LA. Didn't go so well there. Although I think as far as calling the game, it was a fairly entertaining game to call, even though New York City had very limited opportunities. New York City shut out for the 5th time this season. But this one seemed a little different. There were some games earlier in the year where they were creating so little. There was like you never thought they had a chance to score. And I don't think it was really in that same frame this time around. We know that Malachi Jones, who's got the special homecoming here in Nashville, he got in, and that a really nice save by McCarthy, as we described it. If Jones had hit it a little lower to the back post, maybe had a chance to get past McCarthy, but it was still a well-taken shot. He had to muscle his way around the defender, and it was really, to me, that was New York City's best opportunity to score, unless I'm missing another one.
He just got under it a little bit and leaned back, and he hit it high.
Yeah. So
it was a shame because that would have tied the game.
Yeah.
Right? No, would it? No, it would have tied the game. It would have made it 2-1.
2-1. Yeah. I'm struggling to remember now, but
I know
that it was the second. It was the second half. That I know because they were going in that direction. So
yeah.
And The last two games, New York City was trying to break a club record by winning 6 in a row when they met Columbus, and that fell short, losing 3-2. And then in this game, trying to set a club record in consecutive wins on the road, that fell short, and it ended at 3. And now you've got to, after that great stretch of 5 wins in a row, now you've dropped 2. And and one of the questions in the presser today, I think, was, do you start questioning yourself a little bit again? Is it really important that you get the result in this one? And I don't know. How do you see it, Roberto?
Look, I think that they played well enough in the game against LA that, had they been a little bit better and more clinical offensively, that, things could have gone differently. So, I'm looking at the stats here. They actually had more shots in LA, 14-11. And shots on target was 5-4 for LA. So that was pretty, close. But Matty Freese again was spectacular for New York City, making all sorts of saves. And as we've become accustomed to now, and now we're getting spoiled at how good he's playing. I'm not in the I'm very worried department. I'm in the worried department yet. Not at all. I just think that, if they have a strong start against Nashville, they'll be able to, hopefully for New York City and their fans, bring it home. So, but they've got to come out and play well and put that all behind. And, they're a better team now than they were at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Players know their roles. Players know how to play with the other players. The fact that Maxi Morales now comes in and, he gives them a lift when he comes off the bench. Those things help considerably. So, but, they've got to be more clinical in front of goal. They've got to create more chances and finish them.
One thing, when I was coaching along the way, and I don't remember the first time I heard it, but it made a lot of sense to me. And the last 5 minutes of the half and the first 5 minutes of the second half. So last 5 minutes of the first half, first 5 minutes of the second half. And I would even have my teams, they would hold up 5 and the captain would shout 5, 5, 5, meaning, let's be in tune. We know maybe you're a little gassed right now if it's the first half. Don't lose your focus. Keep your attention. And then coming out of the locker room, it's like, maybe your head is filled with a few tactical adjustments and you're thinking about, no, you've got to get right into it, man. The goals were scored in the last 5 minutes of the first half on the James Sands giveaway and the counter. And there was an effort to defend it by Thiago Martins, but it just, it fell into Jovelic's lap, and that was 1-0. But then 4 minutes into the second half, Roberto, you're down 2-0, and that's going to be tough to come back from.
100%. New York City has only come back from a 2-0 deficit once in their lives. And that was that magnificent game against Toronto at Citi Field, where they were down 2-0. They scored 5 goals in a row. And then Toronto scored 2. Alfredo Morales gets red carded. And then they're fighting for their lives there at the end. But they managed to get out of there with a victory. So that was the only time that New York City's been able to get back from a 2-0 deficit. And the funny thing, it was the same referee as we had in LA, which I thought was amusing. That, maybe history could repeat itself twice. But no, it didn't. It didn't happen. This time, I don't think there were any complaints about the refereeing.
No.
So all was
just
good.
The normal function along the in the technical areas, where Greg Vanny and Nick Cushing every now and then had to raise their voice to the referee. But no, I think that had very little impact on the game. Well, there weren't many difficult situations in that game. Where you
No.
Did he go to VAR? I can't remember. No,
I don't believe so.
I don't think
there
was
any VAR.
No.
Well, there was a couple of VAR incidents, but he didn't go to the monitor. VAR did check a couple of situations, but there was no, there was nothing there.
Right.
I can look at my Slack and I can see what they were. If I can find the channel here.
So
they might have archived the channel. So let me see.
So one of the things that that was a detriment. I've talked to Nick about Nick Cushing, head coach of New York City, about you look at the depth of this team and the depth in the attacking areas, the depth in midfield, which has been critical with Parks, Sands, and Perea. But at the back, it's just not as clear cut in terms of the depth, and it's really you see it. It was magnified when Burke Risa had to leave the game, and if folks are wondering, apparently he had a bout of food poisoning. He tried to push through it, and he just felt very poorly. And his availability for tomorrow is as of right now is questionable. We don't know if he's recovered fully from it, especially when you're going to be playing in the heat and humidity. It's a different animal here. I'm preaching to the choir. If anybody here is listening from New Jersey, New York area, I mean, my goodness, I know crazy things are happening there. But so Risa goes out. And you start the second half with Tanasiewicz, who had started the game before, and because Martins was out with a hamstring. Right. So you're just getting a feel for how even you think you should be able to recover from that. So Martins was on the right, Tanasiewicz was on the left as central backs. The goal was scored by Fagundes, and then they switched, sides, and I don't know, it was just that was part of the disruption in the early part of the second half, but you have to take care of that.
That was a really good counterattack. I want to give credit to LA. I mean, the way that they came flying down the right wing, and then that what we call in Spanish diagonal de la muerte, which is like you go basically as close to the end line, and then you cut it back to somewhere near the penalty spot or the half moon, and somebody's coming from behind and shooting from there, and that's exactly what it was. And nobody had Fagundes. Fagundes came in alone, and nobody was marking them.
No, but that's why that's getting to the end line, and that's what bugs me about wingers. The modern day winger always cutting inside. Here's Gabriel Peck. He can go both ways, and he is very good with either foot. Dominant left, but he has no issues with serving and shooting with his right. And he got to the end line. But that cutback, that diagonal cutback, it was shown to me really early on in my coaching career that there's this hole almost inevitably opens up that you can play into. And then if it's a delayed run out of midfield, everybody's looking at the ball. When you get a guy getting in like that, everybody is focused on the ball. When, the literal defending should be look around, check somebody's body, do the whole thing. But it's so often that it doesn't happen. And that's why you see free shots. And Fagundes, Freeze had no chance. Fagundes finished it beautifully. And now you're down 2-0.
I was always coaching Eddie, not that I'm a coach or anything close to it, but I was always coaching Eddie to be on any sort of a play like that, to always be the trailer coming into the box, even on penalty kicks, because a lot of times, not penalty kicks, on corner kicks, because a lot of times the ball gets played out there by the defense. They're just trying to head the ball anywhere, and it winds up near there. And I'm like, just be there. You're going to get opportunities. And I was thinking of that as Fagundes came in and filled that hole, and it was really well done by them.
Eddie Abramowitz with the insurance goal for the LA Galaxy. So the way Nick put it, so I had my one-on-one with Nick for our pregame show, which will air at 8:15 Eastern. We're on Central Time here in Nashville, so it's 8:15 Eastern tomorrow night. Tomorrow, right? Yes, tomorrow night.
It's tomorrow.
It's
been a while. We've been away for a while.
I could be, So here's what Nick said. He said there were 17 good moments of regaining the ball from compact defending or high press. I mean, these are the numbers that are very important to them. But changing these moments into goal chances is an area we need to improve. That's a quote from Nick today. And then he said, in and around the box, we have to be more of a threat. So Shane, we're going to skip to the striker cut here, but that's who started. Monsef Bakrar. How many minutes has he played this season? 994. How many goals has he scored? 1. So that was how I brought things up to Nick Cushing today about the role of the striker. point do you maybe consider somebody else on a more regular basis? Fair question?
Yeah, fair question, but I don't think it's now based off. We have considered the other two over a regular basis. Previously, Munsef did get a run of 8-9 games, and then since then, Jovan's had 2. Alonso Martinez played in Toronto. Alonso Martinez played in Philly. Alonso Martinez played, in the game. So, for us in the Columbus game. So for us, it's about. I do think we're at the point where one of our number 9s has to now, get some momentum, start adding some goals, start really clicking, and we have to get one of our number 9s going. And, whichever one we go with, there's going to be opportunity, but I think it's over to those guys really to really get a foothold in and really solidify that number 9 shirt.
So you do think that it's somebody needs to be given a consistent run just to see what could happen?
Yeah, I do think somebody needs to be given a consistent run, but at the same time, there's 2 guys chomping at the bit. So how long that run is, we're going to have to see progression, we're going to have to see goal chances, and we're going to have to see somebody becoming clinical.
Well, there is a clinical finisher amongst that trio, and it's Alonso Martinez. Now, whether he played well against the Galaxy or not, which I don't think it was one of his best contributions.
Better games. No.
Nonetheless, he's done a lot of his damage off the bench, and that's going into the thinking a little bit, I think, in terms of Bakrar and or Jovan Mijatovic. I think the big question is, when is Mijatovic going to be given a run? And will he get one of those consistent runs like the other two? Because he obviously has not, but that's got to be determined based on partly what they're seeing in training for sure. But that's the hard part. You've got 3 strikers. You've got your main guy who doesn't score goals. You've got your guy that wasn't a striker at the beginning of the year, was changed into that spot in preseason. He's got 6. And then you've got the other one, the 18-year-old, who I think if we put phenom on his title, I think the expectation was that, he had a good chance of coming in and tearing it up, and it just hasn't happened. I'm not saying that was necessarily on the inside the expectation. He was just going to walk in and get it done. But through a series of things, whether it was international, whether it was injury, it just hasn't happened for Mijatovic yet. So it's still a dilemma as far as I see it.
No, of course it is. If you have your main guy, he only has 1 goal in almost 1,000 minutes. That's just not good. I mean, we always hear about all the great things that he does off the ball and all the sacrifice running he does and all the pressing that he does, and all those things, turn into good opportunities and good things for New York City. But at the end of the day, if you're the number 9, they're paying you to put the ball in the back of the net more than anything else. And so you've got to be able to do that. I was looking at Alonso Martinez's numbers for the game. He played 24 minutes, didn't create any chances, didn't have any shots. He had only 5 touches. He lost the ball twice and lost an aerial duel and lost 2 ground duels. I mean, it just was not, the best performance for him. But here's a guy who has scored a hat trick off the bench. Here's a guy who scored, a lot of goals off the bench. And, it's a thing of where I think Nick believes that he can be really good in that position. Let's give somebody else a chance to take, to be the starter. And I can always bring Alonso off the bench. And there's a good chance that he's going to be able to change the game. But also with Alonso, the same thing with Bakrar. He does a lot of things off the ball. He's always active. He's never standing around. So his work rate is great. And so good things come from things like that.
Maxi Morales came in for his 3rd consecutive match as a substitute off of the ACL and recovery. So we wonder how he'll be utilized as time goes on. We keep saying Sandy Rodriguez has played just about every minute of every game, and he's putting in all these incredibly hard miles on the pitch, wondering if when he'll get relieved. But obviously Morales, it depends on whether he can, is fit enough to, if you start a match, you're the essence is, they're gonna try to get 90 minutes out of you, especially in that position. So that remains.
No, of course. Of course, but there's also good news, right? And let's go to that. 2 guys are coming off injury on defense. Thiago Martins and Kevin O'Toole, they both went 90. So that was really, I didn't expect them to go 90, but they did. And maybe Martins had to go 90 because of the fact that Risa got sick, and they didn't really have much of an option, especially with Ilinic out because of a red card suspension. Now he's got a little bit more options on defense because you can move Tavon Gray any place you want across the back line, and he's going to do a very, very good job, especially defensively.
James Sands, just I did ask Nick. He made what was a pretty critical error, which led to the first goal, and Nick said he didn't have to say anything to him. He knew what was going on, and Nick, in a very good head coach way, said, "Look, I asked him to build out of there, and because of that, there's going to be mistakes from time to time, and we'll accept those and move on, and the philosophy is not going to change." Yeah.
No, it happens. It's going to happen. And it was just a bad pass, and LA took advantage of it and countered very quickly, and were able to find the back of the net as New York City was trying to scramble defensively to try to get the ball away. And I thought Martins had gotten it away, but it fell right to Jovic, who, by the way, earns a living by being in the right place at the right time in the box. He scored so many goals like that.
There's something to be said about that, man. Those things
that's not an accident. It's
just
not
like,
an accident.
How did Dennis Rodman get all those rebounds, man? Because he knew where the ball was going off the rim. And, I know you like that crossover talk, Roberto, so I thought I'd throw a little basketball in, man. But it's true.
But with Dennis Rodman, now that you mention that, I want to say something about Dennis Rodman. It wasn't that he had some sort of instinct about where the ball was going to go. He absolutely studied the tendencies of his players and the opposition of where they miss. He would study those tendencies, and he knew the percentages of if they miss left, if they miss right, if they miss short, and he would position himself, and the ball would fall to him 90% of the time. It was fantastic. It wasn't an accident. That was hard work.
Kudos to Dennis Rodman, and that was daughter Trinity tearing it up for the Washington Spirit and the U.S. Women's National Team. I don't know. I think we learned this today, or I learned it yesterday talking to somebody, but the LA Galaxy field, Dignity Health Sports Park, is the second largest field in MLS, 12% larger than Yankee Stadium. This field that they're playing on tomorrow night, Geodis, is the largest field in MLS, and it's 17% larger than Yankee Stadium. So I brought this up to Nick Cushing, and here it is.
One is going to be different again. It's going to be 30 degrees. This is the biggest pitch in MLS. And I think it's 17% bigger than Yankee Stadium, this field. So that gives opportunity, but that also brings challenge. So, you have to work through those different challenges in MLS.
Now, I learned that both the Galaxy Field and Nashville, Geodis Park, are the two biggest fields in the league. Is that right? Yeah,
LA Galaxy is 12% bigger than Yankee Stadium, and Geodis Park is 17% bigger than Yankee Stadium. So
wow. So you always hear about teams coming into Yankee Stadium, and of course, every opposing coach has something to say, and sometimes even the players. But now you're having to deal with it too. I would imagine you like a bigger field, but at the same time, you have to deal with it.
Yeah, as the coach, I don't really think so much about it. I have a performance team that leave no stone unturned, so they report all these different things, whether it be how it's going to affect our numbers, our pressing, our build, all the good and bad. To me, you just have to go and play, and you have to make sure that you play the game that's in front of you. We have a good physical ability about us. We have a good technical ability about us. So if it's a big pitch or a small pitch, both teams have to play on it, right? But I think the guys in the performance team like to go through these real small details. They call them the 1%ers, right? So I'll leave that to them, and then we'll concentrate on the football.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of measurements. All kinds of measurements. We know that most of the time when we're at Yankee Stadium, we see the opposing coaches or someone, stepping off things. Nobody's come out there with a tape measure that I've ever seen.
It is not. But the referees walk it off too. So, I guess if the field wasn't regulation, they might say something. They walk it off before every single game.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of questions.
Do that.
Jay
All right.
Blaze 23. Did he? I guess that means Nick. Say why he didn't go back to Martinez to start. He did not say specifically why, other than to say that and this is why I think Baccarat might be the guy that continues to get the time up front, because he's trying to figure out the most consistent best option. And we're all going to say the guy has scored only one goal. So we're all going to say that. I get the sense, Nick and his coaching team are saying otherwise, because they see the benefits still of him being out there. So we'll see. I do remember, Roberto, at one point, Nick did say, there is a point where if he's not scoring, that his opportunities are going to lessen or, be eliminated, and then the next guy will step up. So we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow yet, but I think it's a pretty interesting choice to see what you do. And Nick has intimated that Martinez, is doing a lot of damage off the bench. He's a killer. And we've talked about him and Malachi coming in at the same time, and they're both really pacey. And especially in these hot conditions, Roberto, even though Nashville might be more used to it, but it's only recently where it's gotten really steamy, even around here, that, maybe tomorrow's the day you bring them both in late again, and that's worked.
We're going to see what he does. I mean, we expect always rotation on when there's 3 games in a week. And actually, I mean, if you look at the whole season, there's really been a lot of rotation, especially on the wings. There's nobody who is really cemented down as your starter, except for Hannes Wolf.
Yeah, Wolf, Santi Rodriguez, and Matt Freese are this is under fun facts. They're the only 3 players that have played in every game for New York City. And
Martins would have, except that he was hurt.
Right. And Reese, I suppose, also.
Yeah.
He was out with a knee thing. And I thought that might have been what cropped up. And then we learned later that it was a good thing. It was just this illness.
And I was a little... I mean, I was puzzled. Why are you making a substitution for Riza at halftime? And then, we try to get information on it and what was going on. And, we didn't get really much of anything. And so it was one of those things of where, like, well, why did Nick do this? And now we know, right? Well, we found out right afterwards when we got on the bus, and he had, a stomach virus, and it turns out it was food poisoning, or at least they think it was. But, we hope he's okay. I mean, we presume he got pretty dehydrated after all of this, because you're throwing up all the time. But I'm sure that they got ways of rehydrating him.
I've got a great visual now. It's really wonderful as we move on with our hey, so Hani Mukhtar, lest anyone forget how good this guy is, and he's played well against New York City. And this overall series, the home team has won every game. They've only played 4 times, but the home team has been undefeated in this series.
Undefeated, correct.
Nashville 2 wins, New York City with a win and a draw. Mukhtar has 3 goals and an assist against New York City FC, and he's just... he got his 7th assist against Toronto. They beat Toronto at BMO, trailing 1-0. And this dude from the championship in England, Sam Surridge, now has 7 goals, and he had a brace in this one, including a goal in the 90th minute. John Herdman, the Toronto coach, called it a disaster. Is that his exact quote? I guess the way things at the end of the game have been going for Toronto, he's not particularly pleased, and he wouldn't be with that one. And so you got to deal with Mukhtar, and a kind of a resurgent Sam Surridge, who only scored. He came in in the summer transfer window last year, Roberto, but he only scored twice. He's only got 9 goals for Toronto. 7 of them are this year. So
you mean for Nashville?
He's shown that. What did I say?
Toronto.
Yeah, for Nashville, and he could drift out to the wing as well and be effective. It turns out, which he did a lot in that Toronto match. They fired Gary Smith. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go. Finish off your thought.
Well, I'm just saying it's a club that Gary Smith got him into the playoffs the first 4 years, but he was sacked earlier in the year, and the interim coach is Rumba Muntali, interim coach who is from Canada, grew up in some part of Ontario, and was with Sporting KC for 7 years in their academy system, moved over to Nashville, and now really has an opportunity. Now, the word we hear is they're searching far and wide for the next head coach, but so far they've only lost once in the 6 games he's been in charge.
And he's probably going to get an opportunity to keep the job permanently if things continue to go the way they are. I want to get back to Mukhtar. So far this year, I've been hearing about how his production has dropped off and everything. So in 19 games, he had so far 5 goals and 6 assists. Last year in 44 games in all competitions, because there were several, MLS, Open Cup, Leagues Cup, he had a total of 17 goals. And the year before that, he had 26 goals, and that was when he was MVP in the league. But when you start looking a little closer, he's only 29 years old, so he shouldn't be dropping off. 29 is still your prime. And but when you look at where he is compared to other players in the league, he's still in the top 1% in chances created. He is in the 1% as far as touches, and he's in the top 14% as far as shot attempts. So when people start reading that maybe he's, not the same player, he's still there. Everything still seems to run through him. So if anybody thinks that, New York City gets a chance to slack off on him a little bit because he's not the quote unquote same player, it would be a huge mistake.
All right, that's Mukhtar. Hey, before we leave the Nashville scene, so we started by talking about Music City. So let's talk some music. So, I in order to lighten the mood early on before I got to the difficult questions with Nick on the pregame show, I
softened him up, didn't you?
Yeah. So I said, well, so what kind of music you like? And he said Stones, Leonard Skinner, Dylan, and then it went on from there. So just play this clip, Shane.
Question that has emerged frequently recently is like, if you could only listen to one song the rest of your life, one song, what would it be?
It's really, really, really difficult question for me because I've got a lot of favourites and it would change all the time. If I was answering today, I think it would be Sympathy for the Devil, Rolling Stones.
Wow, all right. But you're now, as you identified in our last chat, you're an English Jersey boy. So where does Springsteen fall into your guys?
Really high up. My dad is a huge Springsteen fan, seen him over 10 times around the world. Seen him personally myself in Manchester when he played at the Etihad Stadium, Manchester City, with my dad. Incredible artist. It's really hard to pick your favourite song because he's got so many, but I'm a huge Springsteen fan.
All right, we could continue then.
So let me ask you this. As a Jersey guy, just let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you get to?
By the way, I like.
Let me finish. Let me finish.
No, I'm just saying I like doing the podcast from the couch. I might have to change my venue when I get back home. But go ahead.
It's comfy, for sure. Yeah. But do you get deported from Jersey if you don't subscribe to the Springsteen and Bon Jovi fan club? Is there like some sort of edict by the governor that says you're not allowed to live here unless you're a fan of Springsteen, obviously, and Bon Jovi as well?
Well, I don't know about the whole, deportation thing, but I do know you could get cut from a New Jersey ODP team if I were coaching it. I have to tell you, well, look, so we're in tryouts, right? You know how nervous kids are in tryouts? And I think these were, I can't remember, it was 15 or 16-year-olds. And, they're all lined up and we're giving them numbers. And so I always try to lighten the mood because, I know the kids are nervous because they're trying out for this, special state select team. So I'm talking to them all, and then I said, and I think Springsteen was in town or playing at MetLife or Giant Stadium or whatever it was. So I said, are any of you going to the Bruce Springsteen concert? And I'm looking, and I said, do you guys know who Bruce Springsteen is? And like not one kid raised their hand. I said, who are your parents? Seriously, who are your parents? So I told all of them. I said
They were all cut. It was sad.
Well, I guess I made them nervous again, probably because I said it's going to be very questionable if I can select you if you're not, if you don't support Springsteen. But anyway,
I hope that they found that they figured that was humor, or
they
not.
did. I think they did. I don't know if I can't remember if the parents were in earshot, but man, that really, I was shocked because my kids. Are you kidding? They were. My daughter went to like 3 Springsteen concerts before she could even remember that she went. So we're. we really poured it on, and for Nick, I think music, and we've talked about how music. Well, let me ask you the question. You can only listen to one, and I'll kind of tell you what my family said about me. But if you could only listen to one song the rest of your days, starting tonight, you're in Nashville, but you can only listen to one song the rest of the way. What would it be?
I don't like the question, to be honest. I like the other question that's normally posed with this, which is like, what are your desert albums? Your 10 desert albums that you
I don't like that.
keep?
Yeah, that's too easy. That's too easy.
Well, for me, it would be either Light My Fire by The Doors or Enjoy the Silence by Depeche Mode. Although Inagata da Vida by Iron Butterfly,
no.
It's 17 minutes. And it has the best drum solo ever.
Yeah, it's 17 minutes. So I guess it's what I guess if you pick a long cut, that's better because it repeats less.
Exactly. So Light My Fire is over 6.
You won't get as sick of it.
Enjoy the Silence is somewhere around 4 to 5. So
my wife on Father's Day sent out a note to my kids and said, "What song reminds you of your father?" And they both wrote back. Well, my daughter said it might be something by Stanley Clarke, but they both said Maggie May, Rod Stewart, which that's a good choice because they must have heard that song in the house growing up quite a bit. But my daughter on the same day, like an hour later, she was on a bike ride. She lives in New Mexico, and she went stopped and went into a restaurant, and she wrote us all back hurriedly because she said, "You're not going to believe it. I just walked into this restaurant. And the song I hear is Maggie May." How cool is that?
That's very cool. And the funny thing that you mentioned Stanley Clarke, because I was before I came out to LA. Well, I went to LA and then I went out to Palm Springs and I stayed with my friends Tom and Jeffrey. And at one point I'm making coffee and he has like his computer and Jeffrey sits at his computer and he has got, I don't know, like 145,000 songs aside from a wall full of CDs. And I mean, like, it is just absolutely amazing. And I'm just sitting in the kitchen and he's playing different things all the time. And at one point he switches to a jazz tune and I hear the first 2 notes and it's a bass line. And I haven't thought of this since probably my days in college when I was a DJ in Brooklyn College Radio, WBCR, New Dimensions in New York, by the way. And I just turned around and I said, "Oh my God, that's Stanley Clarke." And he said, "Yes." And I haven't heard Stanley Clarke in, I'm telling you, 20, 30 years.
I bet you
it was like there.
But I bet you it was the song "School Days" because it has that really, really obvious opening. Bum 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 bum.
I don't remember. I just heard the bass and something inside me just absolutely remembered it out of nowhere.
All right.
There's no reason for me to remember this, and it was just like that. Hey,
in our free time,
amazing what music can do.
Let's do a music podcast, but we are in Music City. We'll be out somewhere tonight trying to catch something. But anyway, so there's the music portion of NYCFC Views. We could do that, just go into New York once a week and catch an act. But
sure.
I'm just trying to see if we need to look at anything else here regarding any of these guys. I noted that Yuya Kubo, did you see this? FC Cincinnati came off the bench and scored a hat trick. He was named, I think, player of the match day or something. And that was San Jose. So listen to this. I kind of just looked at it. I didn't think much about it, but he came in as a reserve and scored a hat trick. Now we know Alonso Martinez did the same thing against the same team. So San Jose in back-to-back games gave up hat tricks to reserve attacking players in the second. That is crazy. That's got to be an MLS record.
Oh, holy for sure. Smokes. Anyway, I've got to, we got to go back to Nashville for a second because we do have some news for that. Because they're missing a lot of players and some pretty important players as well. Because they're not just, Hani Mukhtar and 10 other guys. So they're missing Julian Gaines because he had a sore ankle. Randall Leal sat out with a hip problem against Toronto. Aníbal Godoy has a thigh injury. Lucas McNaughton is recovering from ankle surgery. And Shaq Moore and Jacob Schaffelberg, who I adore as a player, are representing the United States and Canada in Copa America. That's 6 guys.
Godoy is on. I think he's healed. He's hanging out with Panama.
I was told that he was still here, and he's not. But maybe he is. I don't know. We both got different information on that. I couldn't confirm it one way or the other. This is what I was told.
All right. The club is saying he's on international duty. So if we see him tomorrow, then we'll know you're right. Your sources are correct.
Yeah, because he's really good. I really like Aníbal Godoy.
How about what else do I have here from MLS? Miami 2, Columbus 1. And as you pointed out, I didn't know it was that many, but the going line is no Lionel Messi, no Suarez, because they're away at Copa America with their countries. But there were a hell of a lot more players absent from Miami to win against Columbus, even though it was in Fort Lauderdale. But man, that's a pretty impressive win.
There were 10 players missing. Here's the list, okay? Let's see where we go. Here we go. Lionel Messi, international duty. Matias Rojas, international duty. Luis Suarez, international duty. Diego Gomez has an ankle injury. There were 2 guys who were suspended as well. And they don't appear on the list here anymore. But there were 2 guys on the list. Farias is out until September. Redondo until mid-July. Wangan until mid-July. And Freire until January. He's gone for a long time. And there were 2 guys who were suspended as well that don't appear on this list anymore. But, they were missing 10 players. And they still managed to win against Columbus.
Yeah, that's pretty. You'd have to call that an impressive victory for old Tata Martino. I mean, he had to feel good about that one. And we know that Messi was involved in the opener. We'll get to that in a minute as far as the Euros are concerned. Copa America. And
they haven't invaded, have they?
There's too many soccer events going on right now.
No, they're not.
So that's why to keep track. Yeah. Can you, I'm going to be quizzing you in just a moment. Let's go kicking it around. All right. First, before we get to the Euros, and I know Roberto has an opinion about this, is Georgios Giacomakis, the Greek international who did so well for Atlanta United and was recently transferred to Cruz Azul. Is that right? Yeah, Cruz Azul.
That's accurate, yes.
Shane put up this X thing from Jill Sakovitz, and I think the level here is higher, meaning where he is now. That's the bad thing in MLS. It's okay to lose some games, and I hate it. So he's already dissing MLS. I wonder what he said about the Scottish Premiership when he left Celtic. It was like, holy smokes.
Yeah. He went from a league that doesn't have promotion and relegation to a league that doesn't have promotion and relegation.
Yeah, right.
I mean, he did. And maybe he doesn't know that yet, but he's going to find out soon enough.
Yeah,
I don't know. I still 100% believe, okay, that if you're not motivated to be your best at all times, that if you really need promotion and relegation to motivate you, to play your best, then you're definitely in the wrong sport. You're doing the wrong thing to make a living. It's an unnecessary shot. If he felt that he needed to do that, maybe it's more an indictment of Gonzalo Pineda and Atlanta United and how they went about things, as opposed to, the league in general. Yes, they have 9 playoff spots per conference. But in Mexico, it's not much better. In Mexico, it's the same thing as the NBA. They literally ripped off the NBA playoff system. So, so they're doing that there as well. So there aren't that many differences. Is the Mexican League better than MLS? Absolutely, no doubt. Is it a lot? No. Is it close? I think it's close, but I think they're still better, because when you have the top 4 to 6 teams in Mexico that can spend anything they want, all the teams can spend anything they want, but those teams actually go and do, then you have an advantage over teams in Major League Soccer who are constricted by the salary cap.
Well,
so
he'll score goals there because he is a goal scorer. But thought it was
Cruz
interesting.
Azul's a good team. They made the finals. They needed, maybe he will do well. Look, he did really well in Atlanta. I admired the fact that when he came to Atlanta, he wanted number 7, which used to belong to Martinez, and who was Atlanta's all-time leading scorer. And he basically said, I want the pressure on me. So, good for him, and good for him for wanting all that extra pressure. That's an admirable trait. I like it. Hopefully it's contagious in Cruz Azul, but they have an uphill battle, trying to win the title there, because America is really good, although they lost one of their best players, Julian Quiñones, who went to Saudi Arabia. So Quiñones won 3 titles in Mexico in the last 3 years. So he won 2 with Atlas, and he won 1 with America. So,
yeah. You mentioned Atlanta, and Mercedes-Benz Stadium is their home, and the topic of conversation is around the playing surface. Now, it's normally a plastic surface. So to me, this was pretty interesting because it's a poor surface for soccer, and then they put grass on it 2 days, apparently. Now, I don't have this is not been confirmed by operational sources, but they only laid this grass down over the artificial surface for the Argentina match, the opener, 2 days before the game. The game was played yesterday, Roberto. And here, the Argentinian goalkeeper, let's play that, put that slide up there, Shane. So Martinez, there he goes. Very bumpy. We must improve in this aspect. Otherwise, Copa America will always appear at a lower level than the European Championship. And players, managers, people that run these tournaments, that's a concern for them. They don't want to.
Oh,
and it seems like here in the Americas, it's always like second fiddle to Europe.
The coach for Argentina, was it Leo Scaloni?
Scaloni.
He basically had the same complaint about the field, and he was not happy with the situation. And he was one who said, by the way, unless you have it up there, he's the one who mentioned the 2 days.
No, I have maybe that's where I got it. I have the quote. "Thank goodness we won, because otherwise it would have been a cheap excuse to sit here and say this, but we've known we were going to play here for 7 months, and they changed the surface 2 days ago." It's not for the spectacle. I'm sorry, it's not an excuse, but it's not a pitch. The stadium is beautiful, and with the synthetic turf, it should be spectacular. But with the grass turf today, honestly, it's not suitable for this kind of player. Wow.
And the reason he said that, it was because it was very bumpy. And with that, Argentina, that loves to keep the ball on the ground, had to change their tactics. So they couldn't, pass the ball around like they love to pass the ball around, because they were afraid it was going to jump up and they were going to miss, and, things were happening. So they weren't happy, and so they had to change their tactics. Either way, they wound up winning the game 2-0 against Canada. I thought Canada played pretty decently, by the way. So, they had their chances. Emi Martinez is really good goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And he proved it again. He proved it again last night, making several saves. By the way, speaking of several saves, because Crépeau was outstanding. He was fantastic. He made 6 saves on 8 shots on goal. So, and some of those saves were like,
Well,
how the heck did he stop that?
and then Messi actually missed. He was less precise than I guess you would say he normally is, especially when he hit a little dink over the keeper as he was approaching, and just missed the target. Like Crépeau didn't have it. He came out hard, but really it wasn't about cutting down the angle. It was just Messi missed the target, which I guess we don't see that often.
We don't. He hasn't missed much in MLS, I'll tell you that much. And it was against an MLS goalkeeper because Crépeau is a starter for Portland.
All right. How about the Euros? So first, it's the Balkan brothers, as I like to call them here at New York City FC.
Brothers?
It was yesterday. It was now. This is the 3 of them. They always pregame. This is at Yankee Stadium before the Columbus game. I saw them down there, so I took a little picture of them. But they like to gather and talk before the games, and they were playing shuffles at the hotel that we had in LA, and they're good boys, and but you've got on the far left in that picture is Micha Ilinic. He's Slovenian, and then the other 2 there, Strahinja Tanasijevic and Jovan Mijatovic, are Serbian, and Slovenia played Serbia in the Euros yesterday, and it looked like Slovenia was going to grab the points. And then it was a really late goal, which I did not see. But I think
5th minute of stoppage. I did. It was on a corner kick and a header.
Wow.
And they had sent everybody up, and it was the last minute of stoppage time. And they got the goal there. Had Slovenia won, and they were ahead from the 69th minute on a goal with Karnasic, had put them ahead in the 69th minute, it would have been their first ever win in the Euros, and they would have gone to 4 points because they tied their first game. So they were so disappointed. It felt like a loss to them when they got tied up at the end.
Yeah. So there's still an opportunity to get through, but it's really
they play England.
Yeah. Well, that's another.
They'll find another tie.
Well, Nick Cushing, part of the pregame show tomorrow at 8:15. That's the last thing I asked him was about England, and to me, it was a very. I think it's an interesting discussion. I don't know if you do, Roberto. I don't know if the people watching and listening do, but Phil Foden, Alexander-Arnold, and John Stones all were placed on this England squad by Gareth Southgate in different spots than they normally play for their club team. And we know that Stones and Foden play for one of the best teams in the world. And, Alexander-Arnold does as well with Liverpool. Right. So, but they were positioned differently for this England team. So, my question to Nick, not to question, because we're not in the camp, we're not there. So I always have issues with second-guessing coaches and decisions like this, because you're not there all the time. You weren't in the meetings. Right. You're not.
You didn't see everybody train.
Yeah, all those kinds of things. But I think it's a legitimate question to ask. What I asked Nick was, if you're in the same position, what are you going to do? And he didn't really get to the point, other than to add along the way. He would have dropped Bellingham down a notch into the midfield and put Foden in the center of the pitch, which is, I think, maybe something we might see Gareth Southgate consider next time, because he's really struggled with the holding midfield positions, with Calvin Phillips unable to play because of injury. So there's apparently a lack of depth in that area. Here's a team that, they have a lot of talent, but
look at this forward line. You've got Kane, you've got Foden, you've got Bellingham, who might be the best player in the world. You've got Saka. Behind them, they had Rice and Alexander-Arnold. Come on. You had Walker and Trippier flying up the wings. And they can't get it together. And the only goal was a great play by Walker. All Spurs players, by the way, Erickson falling asleep and losing the ball to Walker, and he getting it across to Kane, and Kane scoring. All 3 ex-Spurs, and that was England's goal.
Well, way to get the Spurs in, man. That's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
All right, today, let's see. Poland 1, Austria 3 in the Euros. The big match that everybody wanted to watch, and I saw very little of. Sometimes the work takes us away from being able to watch all these games. Netherlands and France, 0-0 the final there. Did you find out, did Mbappe come on at all or not?
No, he did not. They only made 2 lineup changes, and he didn't get off the bench.
Okay, and Slovakia won.
He brought in Coman and Giroud, the LAFC player, future LAFC player.
Yeah, can't wait to see him in MLS. Ukraine beat Slovakia 2-1, so those were the other games today.
I'm happy for Ukraine.
Say
very
what?
happy for Ukraine. I'm very happy for Ukraine.
Yeah, you always root for Ukraine, right? I mean,
under present conditions, yes.
Yeah, I think that's the right choice. All right, what else do I have here? Do I have any other little tidbits that are of interest? Not really. I think that might be all I've got. You got anything else? Oh, Matt Miazga is out with a knee injury for a lengthy period of time. He's going to have surgery. Pat Noonan confirmed that today.
Yeah.
That was in the notes.
I mean,
here.
it's like rest of the season sort of thing. He might be available in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, because depending on the surgery, if it's meniscus, that sometimes. Yeah, so but that's a huge loss, obviously, for Cincinnati. Isn't he the defending MLS Defender of the Year? I think he is. Right? Yeah.
Yes, he is.
All right, Roberto. Well, we got a action-packed day tomorrow, and it's our pregame show. Well, first of all, you'll have your NYCFC pregame live with Ariel Hudas. That'll start at 7 p.m. Eastern?
7 p.m., yes.
Okay.
7 p.m. Eastern, as we're still in Central Time now.
Yes. And then at 7:45 p.m. Eastern, Maddie Lawrence and I will have NYCFC pregame live in our English version. Roberto and Ariel will do the Spanish version. And then we both kick off our radio commentary live at 8:15 p.m. Eastern with our pregame shows. And then kick off per usual is 40 minutes past the hour, and we'll see what happens. You have a prediction, Roberto, for tomorrow? Put you on the spot?
I think New York City gets some sort of points in this game. I mean, in Nashville, although they've been playing much better and they're on a nice little run, that's too many players to be down, and too many important players to be down to be 100% effective. So I think New York City at least gets a tie, and if it is, it's the first time that they've taken any points off Nashville on the road.
Yeah, I'll go for the draw too. Yeah, both of us on the fence, but I think getting a road point here is important, at least slightly important, because of you're coming off of 2 straight losses after that great streak, and yeah, it'll be. I think it'll be a team with a mentality to actually perform on the road in a way that led to 3 in a row before the game at the LA Galaxy, and
I just hope that there are goals. I just want to see goals. So New York City got shut out, as you mentioned, for the 5th time already this season. It's not a record. Their record was in 2000. What was it? I shared it with you before. Was it last year? It was last year. The record was last year. They got shut out 10 different times last year, and their best year ever was 2017 when they only got shut out 3 times.
Yeah.
So, and that's regular season. So let's see that that doesn't happen. And of the 10 shutouts that they suffered last year, 7 of them were on the road.
Wow. Hey, last word for Malachi Jones. Well, it won't be his words, but that is one thing that I omitted to bring up, because he's got a contingent here. This is where he and his brothers and sister, 8 of them were all adopted by a family in the Nashville area from Sierra Leone, an orphanage in Sierra Leone. And so it is going to be a massive turnout. So walking on the street today, it was like he was the Pied Piper. There were like 5 or 6 family members, really young boys, and you could just tell that they idolized the guy, and for good reason. So I hope that Malachi gets a chance to play. I would imagine whether he starts or not, that he'll get that opportunity. And again, in this heat and humidity that both teams are dealing with, let's not forget what he and Alonso Martinez have done off the bench as well to some teams. So we'll see how Nick Cushing handles it.
Yes, I just wanted to add something. Since we've been on the air, MLS has now released the injury update for every team, and Atlanta has 6 guys out. I mean, Nashville.
Okay.
Has 6 guys out. So it's Gaines, Godoy, Leal, McNorton, Jack Moore, and Jacob Schaffelberg. The last 2 because they were the national team, the other ones with injuries. So they're out. And New York City, none.
Wow.
You can see where it says, look at that.
Congratulations to Rio Hope Gund, because he's been on that list. It seems like all season.
True.
And that was I think that was a hamstring. So that's great for him. And well, one thing I learned is that when they have back-to-back road games where they don't return home, the entire squad comes out, because you have to ask about Tyler Magno, who was not on the bench. He was not in the squad. He is on the trip, as is everybody. Alex Rando, the 4th keeper, he's on the trip. But Magno not in the squad, and there really was no particular response as to what the reasoning is behind that. But I think the writing is clearly on the wall. And apparently there was a social media post. There was a post-game interview with JR, right? Is that okay? And which Tyler is as you might expect doesn't seem to think he's in the plans, because he's played 6 minutes in the opener and hasn't played another minute since.
He was injured for a long period of time. And then once he did get back, he's made the bench several times, but he's never gotten off the bench. So, he's only played 6 minutes so far. Yeah, and to me, the handwriting's on the wall. I mean, he's below 4 other guys on the wing, and he's just not getting in. And I think that we'll see what happens once the transfer window opens up in July.
Oh, and one other thing. Roberto and I are sitting down with the president and CEO of the New York City Football Club tomorrow morning, Sunday morning at 9:30, to record an interview, which I'm sure we'll share on our next NYCFC Views. And so we actually have to get together and find out what we want to ask Brad. But
yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
We'll have to get up early tomorrow for breakfast.
That's right, Roberto. We're gonna have to do it. So thanks to everyone for joining us on this live NYCFC Views. If you're watching it here on Thursday.
Yes.
What day is it?
Glenn.
For Friday.
It's Friday, Glenn.
If it's Thursday, then we're really late. So
we're in trouble if it's Thursday.
We're late. So
we flew out Thursday. I know that all these days just sort of got together on us.
Well,
but yes, we're here on Friday.
Hopefully you'll tune into both of us and have a chance to listen to us describe the game. Looking forward to it. But thanks so much for being with us. I'm Glenn Crooks. That's Roberto Abramowitz. Oh, I guess I have to point that way. I have to point the opposite way from the way I'm looking. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
On NYCFC Views.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.